Robert Chen stepped off the plane at Manila at 11:47 p.m. At 72 years old, the Silicon Valley venture capitalist was worth $230 million. Manila was destination number 64 on his luxury bucket list. He'd already done Paris, Dubai, Machu Picchu, each trip perfectly documented for his 50,000 Instagram followers. The black Mercedes waiting outside smelled of success. As they drove through Manila's chaos, Robert smiled slightly at the poverty visible even in darkness. Makeshift houses, street children at red lights. It confirmed everything he'd expected. The Philippines, where people would treat him like royalty for the price of a decent lunch back home. Robert's penthouse suite occupied the entire 42nd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A bathroom larger than most Manila apartments. $2,000 per night. The staff who cleaned it made $400 per month. The first morning, Robert surveyed the city from his balcony like a modern emperor. Makati's glass towers glittered. Beyond them, rusted roofs, tangled power lines, smoke from 1,000 cooking fires. Two worlds separated by nothing but luck. His days followed military precision. Breakfast at 7 a.m., eggs Benedict, French press coffee, shopping at Greenbelt, lunch at high-end restaurants, Japanese, Italian, French, never Filipino, afternoons by the infinity pool, evenings at restaurants with 20-page wine lists. He posted everything. His followers commented, living the dream. Goals. But alone at night, scrolling his phone, Robert felt something he couldn't name. His ex-wife hadn't responded in 3 weeks. His son had sent 2 words. Thanks, Dad. His daughter only called for money. He had everything. He felt nothing. On day 4, Robert's driver called in sick. The hotel offered a replacement, but something made Robert decline. He decided to walk. Within 2 blocks of leaving the hotel, everything changed. Pristine streets became cracked pavement. Luxury condos became makeshift houses built from scrap metal and wood. A young man pushed a cart loaded with beer cases, muscles straining, sweat pouring. He looked 50, but couldn't have been older than 25. When he saw Robert staring, he smiled. Good morning, sir. Robert nodded, unsettled. Why was he smiling? A woman washed clothes by hand, knuckles red and raw. 3 children played with a deflated basketball, their laughter genuine and pure. The kind Robert's grandchildren, glued to their iPads, never produced. Robert's $3,000 shoes felt obscene. His $180,000 watch felt like a shackle. He should turn back, but he kept walking. The sari-sari store was tiny, cramped. A woman in her early 30s sat behind the counter, writing in a notebook with intense concentration. 1 bottle of water, please, Robert said. She looked up, kind but tired. 20 pesos, sir. Behind her, a framed diploma caught Robert's eye. University of the Philippines, Business Administration, cum laude, Elena Reyes. You graduated with honors, Robert said. Elena smiled. No pride, no regret, just acceptance. Yes, sir. 4 years ago. Robert's business instincts kicked in. This woman had talent, intelligence. Why are you here? Elena closed her notebook carefully. This is my family's store. My grandfather started it in 1974. My father ran it for 30 years. Now it's my turn. But you could work anywhere. Makati, a corporation. I did, sir. For 2 years, I worked in BGC. 18,000 pesos a month, about $320. Robert had spent more on breakfast. But my father had a stroke, left side paralysis. He needs therapy 3 times a week, medication daily. My mother has arthritis. My brother is studying engineering. My sister is starting nursing school. Elena tapped her pen against the notebook. In BGC, I worked 12 hours, 2 hours commuting. I sent money home but never saw my family. My father missed appointments. My mother stopped taking her medication to save money for my siblings' tuition. She looked at Robert directly. So I came home. Here I make less, maybe 12,000 pesos monthly. But I take my father to therapy. I cook for my mother. I help my siblings study. I'm here when my brother struggles with calculus, when my sister doubts she's smart enough to be a nurse. Elena glanced around the tiny store. My professor said business is about maximizing profit, but he never said profit in what? Money or life? Are you happy? Robert asked. Elena laughed, genuine, surprised. Sir, that's a very American question. You ask if people are happy like happiness is a destination. Here we ask, do you have enough? Do your children eat? Does your family have shelter? Do you have purpose? She met his eyes. By those measures, I have everything. Robert thought about his measurements of success: net worth, property, investment returns, numbers he checked before his feet hit the floor each morning. I have a penthouse 42 floors above this city, Robert heard himself say. It costs more per night than you make in a month. I have homes in 3 countries, cars I never drive, 50,000 Instagram followers who think I'm living the dream. When had he last been this honest with anyone? My ex-wife hasn't spoken to me in 8 months. My son calls twice a year, Christmas and when he needs money. My daughter sends memes instead of conversations. I eat dinner alone every night in a 12-room house. Elena's expression softened. Not pity, understanding. Sir, my grandfather used to say that poverty is not about having little money. Poverty is having no one who would cry if you disappeared. The words hit Robert like a physical blow. Robert pulled out his wallet. I want to buy all your water for my hotel room. Elena's guard went up immediately. Sir, I don't need charity. It's not charity, it's business. Sir, please, let me do this one thing that makes sense. Elena studied him, then nodded. She counted 15 bottles. 300 pesos total. $5.40. She tried to hand back 700 pesos in change. Keep it, Robert said. Sir, this is too much. It's not enough. It could never be enough. Elena accepted with both hands, a gesture of respect Robert didn't deserve. She recorded the transaction with careful precision, then looked up. Sir, when you go back to America, to your big house and expensive cars, what will you tell people about the Philippines? Robert thought about his Instagram followers, the perfect photos, the luxury content he'd curated. I don't know, he admitted. Elena smiled sadly. Tell them we're not poor, sir. We just have a different kind of wealth. Robert left carrying 15 bottles of water he didn't need. He walked like a man in a trance. The street vendor who smiled despite crushing weight. The woman washing clothes who still kissed her children. The security guard in brutal heat who nodded respectfully. Elena with her honors degree and her notebook and her choice to have less money but more life. Robert found himself in Ayala Triangle Park. Office workers ate packed lunches. Street sweepers rested in shade. Elderly people fed pigeons with bread they'd probably saved from their own meals. Humanity. Raw, unfiltered, beautiful. And Robert Chen, millionaire 72 times over, man who'd achieved every marker of success, sat on a bench and began to cry. Not dignified tears, deep, wrenching sobs from somewhere he'd kept locked for decades. People stared. Some looked away, but others stopped. Sir, are you okay? Do you need help? Sir, may I call someone? Strangers, poor strangers, showing concern for a rich man crying on a bench. That made him cry harder. He'd spent his life accumulating, building wealth, chasing success. He had everything money could buy and nothing that mattered. Elena had a diploma on a closet wall and a family she'd sacrifice anything for. She had purpose, love, community. He had a penthouse and crushing loneliness. Somewhere in pursuing more money, more success, more prestige, he'd lost what Elena had in abundance. He'd lost his humanity. Hours later, when the tears stopped, Robert walked back to his hotel. The same route, but different. The doorman's shoes, worn through at the heels but polished to a shine. Pride in poverty. The housekeeper who'd left an origami crane on his nightstand. Kindness no one required. The waiter who asked about his day and genuinely listened. Connection offered freely. Robert had been surrounded by wealth all week. Not in his hotel, in the people, in Elena and her family, in the vendor's smile, in the washerwoman's laughter, in strangers who stopped to help a crying foreigner. That night, Robert sat at his laptop and began typing. To his lawyer, draw up documents, Education Foundation, Philippines Focus, call me. To his son, I need to tell you about something I learned today. Can we really talk? To his daughter, I'm sorry for choosing money over time, for missing your childhood while building wealth you never asked for. Can we start over? To his ex-wife. You were right about everything. I just needed to travel 7,000 miles to understand. Robert looked out at Manila's glittering skyline. Somewhere Elena was closing her store, recording the day's transactions, helping her father, quizzing her sister, living a life infinitely richer than his had ever been. The true face of the Philippines wasn't poverty or struggle. It wasn't five-star hotels or Instagram sunsets. It was Elena. It was the understanding that wealth means nothing if you have no one to share it with. It was knowing success isn't measured in dollars, but in moments, in connections, in the people who would cry if you disappeared. And it had broken him completely, which meant Robert realized with sudden clarity, he could finally start to rebuild. Not his fortune, that was already built. His life.